I love Fallout. As you can see, I spent way too much money on this prop. What I really love is how cool and different all the weapons are in the game.
Like, for example, the Fat Man MIRV in Fallout 3, which shoots a bunch of mini-nukes. What I always thought was particularly cool in Fallout 3 and 4 is the Bottlecap mine. Here's a clip from Fallout 4 to show you how much damage this thing can do.
I decided that I liked the Bottlecap mine so much that I'd build it myself. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how I built it and show you it in action.
Coming up, you're gonna see a lot of painting, 3D printing, mechanical work, and electronics to get this Bottlecap mine completed.
So the first thing I decided to get sorted out was the hinge of the design.
Now, I'm not gonna lie, designing this hinge was a real pain in the butt. I initially tried to use these coiled springs I got on AliExpress, along with 3D printing some kind of hinge clasps. But as you can see, the hinge I designed here does not nearly have enough force to open the lid.
It turns out the little rinky-dink springs I bought on AliExpress were not enough to open the lid. Another problem I had was that the actual lid, because it was made of tin, is way too flimsy. So I decided to make a whole new hinge and a whole new lid by 3D printing it.
Here you can see the two-piece design for the hinge, along with the dowel that goes through to pivot around, that I designed in Fusion 360. As you can see, it fits snug together and fits well into the lunchbox. Instead of using the little hinge springs, I decided to find a compression spring from the hardware store that provides a lot more force. I 3D printed a stand with a pole to hold it in place inside the container. Then I drilled some holes in the lunchbox and used some machine screws with nuts to secure the hinge in place. And now you can see that the lid actually opens from the force of the spring. With the hinge working, it was time to test the gas solenoid. Now I was a little worried. I bought this solenoid on AliExpress, and the CO2 canisters go up to 800 PSI.
So I didn't really know what was gonna happen.
This is the high pressure solenoid I bought from AliExpress. I got the 1/2 inch threaded version for 12 volts input. Then I bought this adapter, which can connect a 16 gram CO2 cartridge to a 1/2 inch G connector on the solenoid.
Oh, for should be able to just plug this right into here. This bad boy in though, the seal will break.
With the adapter in, it was time to test if the solenoid could actually pass the gas through.
Ready? Please be good.
Unfortunately, in my first test, I didn't have the foresight to buy some rubber gaskets to seal the airflow path.
Leaking.
So, there was a lot of leaking. But I could still give the solenoid a test.
Oh yeah.
This thing is frosted.
Now that I've tested the gas, it's time to actually build the chamber that will use the gas to shoot the caps out of the box.
I put the solenoid and gas container inside the lunchbox and measured the dimensions around to get the measurements for the 3D printed manifold. I grabbed this G1/2 design from Maker World, which is a threaded garden connector. I built off of this garden connector to build the manifold to hold the Nuka Cola caps and pass the gas through to shoot them out of the cannons. I ran a tunnel through the solid so that the gas could pass through up the chimneys. Then I exported the file and 3D printed it. To fix the leaking problem from before, I bought some rubber gaskets to put inside the threading to prevent the air from leaking. Then, I threaded the solenoid to my 3D printed manifold. Here's the result inside the lunchbox.
All right, now that we have the case actually assembled mechanically, it's time to get the electronics working.
I built a transmitter and receiver using an Arduino Uno and an Arduino Nano. To communicate, I bought a 2.4 gigahertz antenna off of Amazon that can transmit or receive. I also used a 5-volt buck converter. I also used a 12-volt electromagnet, which is to hold the lid closed. And finally, here are some switches I used for various functions. This is a full circuit schematic showing all the electronics that make up this design. The function is relatively simple. We have a 9-volt battery on the transmitter side, which powers the Arduino Nano. When we press the switch, it sends a signal to the transmitter. The receiver receives the signal into the Arduino Uno. When the receiver receives the signal, the gas solenoid and electromagnet are triggered, which first releases the lid and then second releases gas to shoot the caps out. To control the electromagnet and the solenoid, I needed a powerful MOSFET to switch them on and off. So I desoldered a MOSFET from one of my electric motor controllers. Then I soldered a battery connector to the solenoid. I cut out a piece of the original lunchbox lid and glued it to the new 3D printed lid, but unfortunately it wasn't strong enough to stick to the electromagnet.
So, when I push this down, it should stick.
I switched materials to a brass shelving hinge I had that was much more magnetic.
This should drop, and then the solenoid should click like half a second later. Yes!
With the magnet and control working, I added the new brass piece to the bottom of the lid.
I spent so long trying to get this lid thing to work, so you can see my joy when it finally actually stuck. Now I can show you all the pieces together, mechanical and electrical.
I got the electromagnet here sitting flush, got the spring, it's kind of glued in, the wiring's wrapping around, cap blasters, battery in here, solenoid for the gas. I'll have to put a canister in there for CO2, and everything routes out here. I gave it a yellow heat shrink to match what it does in the game. Receiver module here, so this switch here, LED here. So that's a summary of the receiver side. Now let's look at the transmitter side. Okay, now transmitter, pretty cool. 9-volt battery, transceiver module here, Arduino Nano, buck converter to convert 9 to 5 volts, pressure switch click, and then I 3D printed this case and this lever, and then I put one of these hinge springs in here. You can hear the click. There we go. And I have a little toggle switch to turn it on this side. Switch this on. There we go. LED's on, things on.
And now for the fun part, let's actually test it with some gas.
Oh no! It ran out of gas.
Let's try that again.
Issue?
That was sick.
Now that we have everything functioning, it's time to paint and make this look like the actual model.
I gathered the paint here to paint the box and the caps. I used a bluish gray Mr. Color lacquer paint and a red acrylic Tamiya paint and then a white lacquer paint from another brand. I also used a clear coat gloss to give it a bit more of a shine. After priming the lid with some black Citadel primer, I was then going to start airbrushing with the blue-gray color. You can see with the airbrush the paint is applying quite well, although I need to apply a few coats to get a nice even smooth coat without overpainting. And hey, if you noticed, I'm painting inside using my paint booth. I actually made this in one of my first videos, so check that out on my channel. Here you can see the before and the after of the lunchbox after painting. I tried to add some rust-like features using this brown panel accent liner from Tamiya, although the result was pretty mediocre.
Now, you can't have a bottle cap mine without the bottle caps. So let's get them printed and painted.
Here I'm just 3D printing some bottle caps I got off Maker World. I did the same steps to paint them, first by priming with the Citadel black primer, and then using the airbrush with the red Tamiya acrylic lacquer paint. After painting all the caps red, I needed to create a stencil for the Nuka Cola logo. To do this, I created a Photoshop image from an image on the internet and imported the SVG file into Fusion 360. Then I could translate this file into a cutout and cut it out from a solid body to make the stencil. Once I printed the stencil out, I used it to paint the Nuka-Cola logo onto the top of the caps using the white lacquer paint I had in my airbrush. Finally, to make the caps more shiny like they are in the games, I used this Mr. Color High Gloss Clear Coat. Then I sprayed all the nice pretty caps with the gloss clear coat. And here you can see the final result. I think it turned out really well. The red and white shines through great, and the gloss clear coat is pretty good.
Now that we're done painting, it's time to get the stickers on.
To make the vinyl stickers for the case, specifically for the special logos, I printed the sheets using vinyl sticker sheets in my color printer. Then I cut out the sticker for the lid, which was very simple, followed by the special logos around the side of the case. This was a little trickier as I needed to carve out the white spaces using an X-Acto knife.
As a final touch, I took some brown and black painting to add some rust-looking accents to the lunchbox.
Finally, I added some metal wire to the receiver box to look like an antenna. And here's the final result. I'm super happy with it. I think it looks great and really matches the design in the game, which you can see here.
Finally, it's time to put it all together and test it.
Gosh, I'm a little worried about this. 3, 2, 1.
For the last test, I'm going to put this together in the Fallout universe and make it look awesome.
In 3, 2, 1.
And that completes the Fallout Bottlecap Mine project. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe to my channel. It would help out a bunch.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like it, please subscribe to the channel and help me get this channel off the ground so I can keep making some awesome videos. I got some really cool ideas that you're not going to want to miss. See you in the next one.